For some reason, 2022 feels like it suddenly snuck up on me as a great movie year. With some late entry shuffling, and particularly when it comes to the variety, I think it's a real standout on the calendar. So here we go. Let's round it out with Push Your Glasses Up's Top 10 Movies of 2022. Weird Al has lived an interesting life with decades navigating the always changing terrain of the music business, being the star of his own children's television series, and starting a family, but we've seen musical biopics ad nauseum through the years, many of which cover similar arcs. Why not do a Weird Al biopic in the only way that feels true to Al himself? A parody. By fleshing out the original Funny or Die faux trailer into a feature-length production, the satirization of genre is the layer that helps transcend any old biopic. It's also got some of the best dumb comedy of 2022. One of these days, I'm gonna sit down with this and Walk Hard the Dewey Cox story and have myself a riotous time. In some ways, Avatar: The Way of Water suffers from the same lows as its predecessor, but it also takes its highs and expands on them tenfold. Don't get me wrong, had I seen this film at home on a television, I don't think it would make this list, but it squeaks in on its pure cinematic spectacle. That, and the whales. Flaws and all, it garners a feeling of awe that likely won't be replicated if you miss its theatrical run. Bringing the series back in time, Prey simplifies what we've come to expect from Predator as a franchise while expanding focus on character and tension. This easily jumped to the top of my list for the series by refocusing the perspective. No longer are things framed so that you're rooting for the big bad. We're back to the point of view of an underdog for the first time since 1987, and because of that direction, I'm genuinely excited to see what could potentially come next. What if Close Encounters of the Third Kind was about the causality of being a public figure, especially if you're a public figure who is a person of color? With Nope, Jordan Peele perfectly captured in visual metaphor the stress of trying to regain that control from an eye that wants to chew a person up and spit them out. And the performances are compelling and immensely natural, particularly those of Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya, who managed to portray some of the most realistic sibling interactions I've ever seen. It's a watch that requires confrontation from the viewer, but because of that, the cathartic release it supplies is one of the best of the year. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is beautiful, not just in its animation, which is of course stunning, but in its heartbreak and joy, its scares, songs, and messages of loss and love. Some moments carry an old-world fairy tale magic, while others, like Geppetto's creation of Pinocchio, feel like My First Frankenstein. The twists this adaptation presents allow for a fresh retelling of a tale we've seen so many times before. Del Toro has always been able to blend grim with modernity, something the Jim Henson Company also achieves in its fantasy storytelling. so this partnership fits hand in hand here. They both thrive when they embrace the childlike imagination within. So it only makes sense that their efforts would make this story about a boy who becomes real truly come to life. From the time period to the way they portray what makes a real boy, it's familiar but new, like adding a little flourish to a nostalgic meal from your childhood. We've seen so many takes on Batman over the years, but this is the first time we've seen a true detective noir. I love me some Burton Batman, and The Dark Knight is still an all-timer, but to finally get this tone that has been in the pages of some of my favorite comics feels like a reward. There are moments that are chilling and upsetting, which is unsurprising as it was the main concern of the marketing material, but there are also moments that uplift more than I would have expected. There's just enough hope before the credits roll that a bit of optimistic light cuts through the darkness. Tom Cruise brought his penchant for tense, real stunts, one of the stalwart traits of the Mission Impossible franchise, into the Top Gun world, and helped bring not only one of the most exhilarating action movies of all time to life, but a throwback movie that balances it out with a bit of romance and humor. It's classic movie making brought forward to the modern era, and despite a very Marvel-inspired climax, captures everything we think the original Top Gun did, while improving on it tenfold. It's pure tension plus relief storytelling. Crowd pleaser work. Some years that popcorn experience is what you're craving the most. Glass Onion is not just a worthy sequel to Knives Out, but it outdoes its predecessor by maintaining its whodunit genre for the complete runtime and showcasing that Rian Johnson, in very Hideo Kojima-like fashion, is a narrative soothsayer. A miraculous task when the first film is so highly regarded, but somehow Johnson and his new but equally remarkable ensemble pull off a murder mystery that doesn't stop being a murder mystery once the twist is revealed. The one thing I will never get over with this movie is how predictive it was about the back half of 2022. I don't want to go into any more detail about that for fear of ruining the experience, but know that when it hits for you, that's exactly how I was feeling the whole time. He's always put a little bit of who he is in his films, but The Fabelmans sees Steven Spielberg earnestly and literally turning the camera on himself for the first time, and it's a wonderful look into the world, influences, and struggles of somebody who inspires others themselves. Finding truth in reflection, even if it's difficult, is something I think most people prefer to keep within the walls of their own home, but what do you do when your home is the movies? We know Hollywood loves seeing cinema about cinema, but The Fabelmans stands apart from that because while the reverence for escapism exists, it has a counterpoint of confrontation. That balance of glossy reverence and personal honesty is something that's rare to come by in biopics, particularly when the point of focus is involved as a creative or producer on the project. But here Spielberg finds himself in full control and at the top of his game. On any given day, you're tasked with what to make of it, and what you choose can lead you down into the void, or you could flip everything bad to good. Maybe it takes a bit of both. The way Everything Everywhere All at Once speaks to nihilism, regret, love, hate, and fear all in a stylish and thrilling package is enough. Not to mention the fact that this movie does with a head tilt what took Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness millions of dollars in CG to achieve when it comes to portraying multiverse traversal. Like, damn. Add into the fact that the Daniels have this patented touchstone of declaring even silly things can be deeply important, and you have something special. Hey, howdy, hey, I'm on camera now. I just want to say thanks for joining me, not just for this video, but also for the fact that this was my first year doing the podcast, just me, and having to like bring guests in and stuff. It's been a lot to take on, but I'm really happy with the first year of this sort of new era of everything. But also, it's just been really cool seeing how this channel has actually grown this year while that's happening. And I just want to say thank you to anybody who's watched the videos, who's liked and subscribed to the channel. And yeah, so thanks. It's very nice of you. But also, like, dude, look at all this. This is every video that I did this year. I did 95 videos this year. My goal was 52. So I guess I crushed it. So once again, just a big thank you, and until next time.